folks, and welcome to the Dr. Carl calendar. Dr. Carl calendar is not here, but he's around somewhere. Visiting Writers Series. Our first author, who I am thrilled to introduce, is DeeSoul Carson, who is a poet, educator, and host of the podcast O Word, which speaks with poets about craft and inspiration. His work is featured or forthcoming in Poetry Magazine, Muzzle Magazine, AGNI, and elsewhere. I really have to put my glasses on. I can see the words. For his work, DeeSoul has received a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship and a Ruth, Lilly, and Dorothy Sargent Fellowship from the Poetry Foundation. His chapbook, the amazing Running from Streetlights, is a meditation on Blackness in America during the summer of racial reckoning. His debut full-length collection, The Laughing Barrel, will be forthcoming from Alice James Books in spring 2027, so this time next year. In the Alice James description of Laughing Barrel, DeeSoul Carson considers the absurdities that shape the lives of people, and in particular, people of color. Whether those absurdities be racism, capitalism, genocide, or a constant personal and communal grief. The poems are a personal examination into the utility of laughter and humor in a country that is yet to shield its oppressive structures. In the words of award-winning poet Terrence Hayes, quote, "The poems of the Laughing Battle testify and tease, weep and wink, dance on the edge of despair. This is a remarkable debut by a truly original new poet." End quote. In an interview with the Poetry Foundation, DeeSoul said, quote, "I think the role of the artist is to witness." He says, and not only to witness, but then as much as one can to take action amongst that witnessing. He hopes his work inspires others to think about what it is that poetry can do and where the work is pointing them. So hopefully you too will walk away from this inspired by his poetry. Let's play DeeSoul Carson.
DeeSoul, D-E-E-S-O-U-L. Hello, everyone. Oh, God, I love being in a room where people actually say hello back. Before I start talking, I'm going to pass out these little pieces of paper to about 18 of you. There's a little bit of a Mad Libs poem that comes later, and I will need your answer to these questions. So just hold on to these, think about them, and I will kind of give them out. All right, thank you for indulging me in that. That will become clear as I go on. As was said, I write a lot of poetry about absurdity, thinking about absurdity, the different things that don't make sense. So this being our visiting writer series and me being at a college, I'm trying to work on reading newer things. So I'll be reading stuff from the forthcoming project, The Laughing Barrel, but I'll also be reading some stuff from 2 other projects that I'm working on. So what I'll start with is the opening poem of The Laughing Barrel. I'm actually just gonna hold this. What's going on? Nah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the hummingbird back home that bumbles between the flowers for food. Let's talk about how the bees have been lacking on pollination lately. Let's talk about the bee I tried to save in 9th grade, its broken wing, how it stung me anyway, so I threw it on the ground and stomped it out. Forgive me, my missing mercy. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about smacking niggas as a form of restorative justice. Let's talk about niggas disrespectfully. The white homie my dad almost clocked for swooping in on my mom's parking spot. The nigga that still owes me $5 from 10th grade. Yeah, I haven't forgotten, Matt. We'll talk about it later. Let's talk about summer, about June. Let's talk shit about your favorite basketball teams, none of whose names I'll know. Let's talk about roller skating, bowling with the guards up. Whose auntie brings the most ridiculous church hat. Let's talk about whose grandmama makes the better cobbler. I know them's fighting words. Let's talk it out. Let's talk about let's talk about Brianna and George and Ahmad and Jacob. Let's talk about how guilty white people felt those 3 weeks. How they Venmo'd me their $5 reparations for looking in my direction. Was that justice? I don't know. Nobody wanted to talk about it. I was never without cash that summer. Let's talk about it. Nah, don't change the subject now. There's so much to discuss. It's not even noon yet, but the weather is excellent. Manhattan snow is taking its violent chill elsewhere for at least another season. Families are picnicking where Seneca Village once stood. Down in Missouri, lightning bugs are illuminating my grandfather's pond. Come outside. There's still so much to say. I just want to talk. I'm realizing I'm getting nervous because I didn't do my whole spiel that gets me into this thing. I appreciate how already you guys are very interactive. I want people to remember, like at a poetry reading, and this is not for me, this is for when Jeanann comes up and does much better than I'm doing. You're allowed to like give the poet your energy. So if you like something, you're allowed to like, can I get that from the room? Just a perfect, great. If you really like something, you can snap. Can I get some snaps? Or you can pretend to snap if you don't know how to snap. If you don't like something, you can boo. Can I get a boo? You'll work on that. I'll help you. And the last thing I say, I appreciate the claps in between poems. I'm going to ask you not to do them. Because I know sometimes there can be like a pressure to clap between the poems, and sometimes it feels awkward. So don't feel pressured. Make the noise that your body is telling you to make, but don't feel pressure to do it at the end of the poem. Does that sound good? Can I get a yeah? Yeah, okay, perfect. Perfect, exactly. That's the energy I want. Perfect. All right. If you broke, just say that. The empire's in my pocket asking to hold $5. A billion years ago, I was a thought riding in a universe heavy grain of sand, and now Gavin Newsom is sending me a you-up text on the 15th of every month. The state wants to know if I'll fund its fumblings. I'm to be convinced there's a gun law that won't pass without my 2 cents. My tax income is needed to bomb a nation I can't find on any map America drew. If you hold $1 to the light, you'll see the eagle twist its beak into a slur. You'll see the White House laughing underneath its unlabored breath. A billion years ago, everything that is wrong with this country hadn't happened yet. Oh, nation of mammon, you found God and killed him. We were a miracle of the universe, and now we argue if children deserve 3 meals a day. Once, there was a field in a nameless country waiting for the sky to break open. There were our names pocketed in the wet of the earth. There was a child, however unmade, waiting for a dark to sleep through, unbothered. All right, so this next one, Easter Sunday is this weekend. And I grew up in a very Baptist household. I'm also from California. And in 2010 in San Diego, there was an earthquake on Easter Sunday. And it was one of our largest ones in recent history. It was like a 7.2, and it lasted for 90 seconds. I don't know how many of you have experienced an earthquake. They're not supposed to last for 90 seconds.
Once mm-hmm. The school.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird.
Yeah, they are weird.
I felt the ground shake beneath me. It was like the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, so you can imagine my surprise being a child. It was Easter Sunday. We were sitting around the table saying grace. The earth starts shaking. I'm convinced Jesus is coming back at that moment. Right before I'm about to eat, I was mad as hell. Because how dare he? There was really good food on the table. So anyway, so this poem is thinking about that particular incident, but Resurrection Day. The story goes, on the third day, God said, psych, and the stone sidestepped the tomb in the dead of morning. Or Jesus went down on a Friday afternoon and by Monday snatched back his living as the bandit does the temple's gold. Or, as my uncle tells it, Lazarus dreamt dirt and 4 days later the Lord said, boy, stop playing, get the fuck up, and decided he wanted to show him how it was done. The story goes, Abraham trusted God enough to raise a knife to his son, and his devotion caught in the Lord's throat as a ram in the bramble. The story goes, for 89 seconds we paused our grace over Easter dinner while the earth made its breathing known. Fearful of being raptured on an empty stomach, I asked Jesus if he could wait to roll back the stone, and the adults laughed, watching the lampshade sway over the salt and pepper chicken, waiting for a trumpet to blare or a voice to call us home, or, at the very least, for a dish to crash and shatter. The story goes, 4 people died as Jesus conquered death, and that summer I gave my life to Christ. It seems to me faith functions best when God has something to prove. The saints had it easy. Who wouldn't believe a fleece bone dry despite a downpour? A bush burning and unashed. Miracle is just the word for the correction of what has already gone wrong. All of God's best mercies, remember, came after the disaster had happened. Technicolor promised only after the world was drowned. Rack, Shack, and Benny finally saved in the flames of the furnace. Exodus of the Israelites after decades of bondage. Their deliverance, a ruined city. A boy, ready to die, convinced by a quake 200 miles away there may be a God to blame. Who was to say I was not already miraculous? A dead thing still breathing, a tomb with nothing to show for it. All right, all my poems are not all about being mad at God. Sometimes I also think about older people and children, so here's a poem about both. It's called epistemology, which is just a fancy word for how the theory of how you know things. Epistemology. On the F train to Essex, a woman hops onto the train. You scoot over to offer the little room there is. She sits down. Thanks you. 12 hours on your feet will take a lot out of you, she says. I work at the post office, you know. They can't fire me, but conditions are non-negotiable. She says 12 to 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. If you can't do that, don't take this job. You nod. You, in response, same as your grandmother, who toiled years at the Oakland USPS processing center. She says, I couldn't negotiate if I wanted to. I'm 55. After Corona came, it was either this or the streets, and I ain't made for the streets no more. You laugh, empathetically. She laughs, harder. She says, I'm glad I ain't got no one to go home to. No husband worrying me for dinner, although I'd love a man to rub my feet and send me home when he is done. No badass kids dirtying my carpet, she says. She says, people appreciate teachers a lot more now they've had that badass kids at home for so long. My girlfriend, she a teacher, and parents don't cuss at her no more. She says, you seem like a nice kid. I bet your parents didn't take that mess. What are you, 23? Yeah, I can see it in your eyes. Just you wait. There is so much to be learned from children. This weekend, a girl in Central Park, gowned in a ruffled cerulean dress her mother certainly wanted to keep clean, was packing dirt into a water bottle, and the dirt was everything. The dirt was water, and the dirt was magic, and when her brother dumped the bottle, she chased him with all her fury through the grass, cursing him with the dirt that was magic when she said it was. Yes, the children know how to make so much of so little. Yes, the children know how to wow this world we have kept so clean. Yes, I gave my students sheets of paper and they returned to me hundreds of tiny cranes, a dozen dime-sized frogs hopping across a linoleum, real to the children, and so they were real, period. A student gave me a paper butterfly named Bert and told me to keep him safe, and so I did. Kept his paper wings fluttering in a terrarium of the dirt that was magic. Yes, the children know what I do not. The children know that you drive by pressing your hand to the gas pedal, and babies are made when you swallow a watermelon seed just right, and chocolate milk can only come from brown cows. Yes, the children know the only difference between dirt and magic is the time before the first interruption.
Come on.
This next one, I wrote this, and you can't see it from where you are, but it's in the shape of a flock of birds. I'm holding it up like you can see it anyway. And the impetus of this poem was thinking about a poem by a Palestinian poet. It's a very short but popular poem. It says, in order to write poetry that is not political, I must listen to the birds. In order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. I must listen to the birds, but the state stole all my good metaphors. There's so much nothing already being done. There's nothing to spare. Nothing galore, nothing frothing at the mouth of our institutions. It's all anyone seems to be able to afford these days. Nothing 5 for 1 at Walmart. Nothing half off in the targeted ad between my cousin's engagement and the headlines empty of blame. Nothing we aren't already familiar with. We got so much nothing, we've wormed it into everything we manufacture. High fructose, nothing sweetening our bloodstreams. Nothing holding together our planes. Nothing pumped out of our nothing factories while nothing scholars argue back and forth whether all this nothing will haunt us one day. Is haunting us now. Nothing in the hills and in the streams and the straining for the sound of children playing. We gathered all the nothing and put it in museums so we wouldn't forget all the nothing we did. Curated nothing expositions and read nothing artist statements and hosted galas sponsored by nothing. Saying look, saying listen, saying when there is nothing left to mourn, the birds will sing for us still. How are we doing? We doing okay? Yeah. Okay. The title poem of my debut collection is a suite of sonnets. It's like 11 sonnets. I'm not going to read all 11 of those sonnets. I'm going to read, it's like 4 of them in succession. So, yeah, I meant for that to happen. 4 of them in quick succession. So I'm going to just kind of read through them. But the laughing barrel. The marker of a good lie is believability. Lucille's daddy said in history, even the lies are true. The laughing barrel is a recordless invention, a ledgerless freedom I feel whenever my body twitches with a good joke. Cartwright gave us a lie called drapetomania and boom. Escape was a dream only the sick slave reached for. More folklore than fact. To make sense of our survival, we have passed down what innovations we've deemed necessary. A god to scream into, a barrel to retain our faith and still. Whatever hands order our steps reminds us of the horrors haunting us so, such that we need convincing our ghosts outlive them, that even our dead could laugh. There's a difference between the funny that leaves me and Shantae gasping breathless in the living room and the funny that makes me and Kai cut eyes at each other during class. I spent my life proving I can't take shit serious. Everything is so unfunny and I'm just trying to get along. I say, shout out to the TTC when Vic told me to watch out for stabbings 4 days ago. I'm American, so my standards are abysmal. We've got great transportation in unlivable cities, so we laugh about it. Funny ha-ha. In class, a white woman says that because her family endured the Holocaust, she understands what it's like to be a black person. Funny weird. I scoff because it is improper for me to say, girl, what the fuck, out loud. In the morning, I say, we're doing great as a species. It's a good joke, a great one, even. I almost believe it. My homie fly as a baby bird. Homie, a whole nest of hungry mouths. Homie caught a hot pepper in her beak and spent a year hounding the heat from her chest. Homie, a whole seraphim now. Got too many eyes to count, too many wings to see. Homie plagued by the biblical kind of irony. Last I heard, homie heard a joke so good she cocked her head back and screamed. My homie so fly, the wind beneath her wings caught her up, tried to take her to glory. You can still find her feathers where it happened. You can still see her pecking where it hurts. Some breath is a hindrance to survival. My brother's quick step, the pig's eager hand. Some breath requires stillness, the steadying of my sister's pulse in the back seat of a pulled over sedan. Some breath a song telling us what we've been, who we fucked and fucked up to be here, how things now rusted once shone like silver. The heartline of my mother's palm grease with baby oil. There's so much noise I want to nurture. In my dreams, my father strums sand to a standstill. Sometimes I hum to ensure I haven't exhausted of sound to this place. I want a cacophony of a post-church parking lot. I want the soft tapping of rain on the apartment skylight. I want the living single theme on repeat. I want to run my hands through the songs that outlast us. I want them to slip unabated into the dark. All right. So that's the end of the poems I'll read from that project. Something else that I think about a lot is form, and I'm a lifelong video game player. Do we have any people in here who play video games?
Sometimes, and only the Insomniac Spider-Man ones.
Okay, period. Those are good ones. I'm a big video game player, and I think a lot about the way that video games are based a lot around their mechanics and what we can learn from video games and other kind of digital media about form and the rules of form and how that imposes itself onto the story itself. So I've been writing a lot of poems, kind of ekphrastic or after poems, thinking about different kinds of media. And so this first poem is based off a puzzle game called The Talos Principle. I don't know who here, if anyone's played The Talos Principle, but the basic idea of it is it's a puzzle game where the player takes the role of a robot with seemingly human consciousness. The player is working through different puzzles and trying to figure things out, and all the while it's hearing this godlike voice that calls itself Elohim, and it also has this library, like this computer terminal, and you can find all these different text documents that's like coded in hexadecimal. So the game itself is thinking a lot about like the nature of like what does it mean to be alive, to have consciousness, to be a human, and it's also thinking about like the thought of obedience. And so the original poem that this has hexadecimal, but I'm not going to make you decode hexadecimal in the middle of a reading. And so for the reading, I've also made a version of it that is a Mad Libs. And so this will require those answers for those questions that I asked you. I'm not going to ask you, or I'm not going to, have you say what the question is. I'm just going to ask you what your answer is to them. You can give me the answer however you interpreted it, and I will interpret it into this prompt. And then we'll kind of go from there. Does that make sense to everyone so far? Okay, great. So whoever had number 1, give me what you got. This is also a good time to look at what numbers on your question.
Mine is 1. What designation do you bear when stripped to your core?
Perfect. What was your word? I'll come back.
The words are 1.
Give me 1.
Brave.
Perfect. Number 2, and you don't have to read the question, just give me your answer. Okay, everyone look at your numbers. Who has number 2? What's your word? Everyone think of your words now.
Angry or upset?
3. I'll come back to you. Who has 4? Don't read the question, just give me your answer.
Happiness.
Great. 5.
Adventurous.
6.
June bug.
Ooh, I like that. 7.
Fear.
Feel. Good. 8.
Wailing.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. 9.
Periodically.
10.
Remarkably underwhelmed.
11.
Lying to God.
12.
Ignore it.
13.
Wedding ring.
Sorry, that was not a question. Just like that answer. 14.
Anger.
One more time. Anchor. Great. Anger, like being mad. Got it. 15.
Colored it.
16.
Cold cash.
Cold cat. Cash. 17.
Protection.
18.
Weather.
All right, and then back to my friend with number 3.
Okay, I'm gonna say authentic.
Authentic. Okay, so just think of those words that you just heard because they're going to come back in a moment. So, build null, then we'll talk after the Talos principle. Resolve the queries below with brevity. What designation do you bear when stripped to your core? How do you move through this life? What is it you become when no one is watching? What do you dream of in the night's stillness? What kind of child were you? What does your grandma call you? What do you do despite your wishes? What is acceptable in unfavorable conditions? How would you describe your breathing? How would you describe the path your life has taken you? What was the first sin you committed knowingly? How do you cope with what you've lost? What item was precious to your mother? What beast was your father named after? What do you do to the person you used to be? What is the name of your God? What cross does your brother carry? What is the word for what time does to us? Resolve the blanks below with your inputs. Even now, I can't decide what makes me brave. Query, I upset, therefore I am. A voice bade me solve, and so I became an authentic, any happiness would be proud of. Like an adventurous June bug, I was commanded to feel, and like any reasonable son, I refused. Query, is wailing, programming, or deviance? Query, if periodic will is remarkable, how free is it? The first sign of life is the ability to lie to God. The second is regret. I ran until I could find an ignorance worth living for. But when I was done, all I had was a wedding ring, a tower I was told not to ascend, an anger in the shape of my own tongue. I colored cash, and in return, I found a world already dead. I killed God, and in return, his protection mine to bear. Query, I create, therefore I am. No, not quite right. I am, therefore what I love most will weather me. It's always a really fun one because you can only get, I'm always really interested by what the words people will give me, so I appreciate that. This next one is very different. I don't know if anyone here has played Bayonetta. Okay, period. Bayonetta, for anyone who's not familiar, she is this really she's like a 7-foot tall cunt witch whose whole thing, she's like really for the gay community. And she was really affirming to me as playing a lot of the games. You have a lot of demon killers. She kills angels, and she's her whole thing, her whole first games, she goes and fights God. And I just thought that was really remarkable. And so in the game, besides her being a 7-foot tall angel killer, she also dances very provocatively. This is a rated M game that I felt really seen by. There's also this recurring motif of Fly Me to the Moon through the game, and so that becomes kind of the end words of this poem. So just keep that in mind, I guess. This is an ode to Bayonetta. Requiem for the Time Witch, after Bayonetta 2009. Oh, most honored bitch, to be so cunt, so fly. Your glamour and gilded pussy rendered me moonstruck, gagged and gobsmacked. When I hit play that night in my repressed youth, I swear even the stars sang your sacrilege, pulled back their wigs to see your pomp and pistol pump spectacle. Spring was a fantasy I had given up on, like prayer or Jupiter, or the return of that poor little rover on Mars, singing itself lullabies under an airless sky. I wanted to hold your promise of a paradise that could be in the wrong. Wanted a hand that would not rise against me in my hour of need. Good witch, darling mother, in the midnight of my spirit, your magic reached out to kiss me. In other words, who would I be if I didn't know I could fight God and live? In other words, how could I live if I didn't know I could take all the time in the world? All right. I only got a couple more for you, so I appreciate y'all. Am I doing okay on time? Okay. Thank you. So this next one is a very short game, and I actually think it's a really great game for writers. It's called Season: A Letter to the Future. It's a game you can finish in 6 hours. And basically what it is, it's like an atmospheric adventure game is how to describe it. And you're following this young woman from a small village documenting the world as it comes to an end, or as in the game's world, they call it the changing of the seasons. And so part of this poem's inspiration comes from Franny Choi's The World Keeps Ending, The World Goes On. Terrific book I recommend to everyone. But it's like a little letter because the book is in the form of like, she writes these journals, entries, and she's talking to people, gathering their stories and things like that. So, The Ruin in Your Mind, after season, A Letter to the Future. Impossible stranger, there is a season for every time we've ever known, even more for every time we haven't. There was a season of love, gold, and dulcet, a season of tides and turning, of water and war stalking our prismatic lands of sleep, dreamless and time unraveled, a season of withering grain silos and droplets plinking into a pot, a season of birds making nests of our unread letters, a season even of cows, their mooing and their cream and the gentle clinging of their bells, of goats and their grass chomping, of crickets and their stridulations calming the fields of our dead. This season of now, of haunting, of memories precious as jewels, I leave it behind. A season comes soon of forgetting, history slipping from our shoulders, and I refuse it. All I love will soon be an echo, and then not even that. Who are we if we cannot recall what we lost? Who are you, fashioning a name from a name someone died loving you with? I have loved too much for the future to never know it. I have lost too dearly for the ground, for only the ground to cry out with my past. For my sake, remember the seasons of terrible artist kings, the seasons of floods and kites, of horns and billowing shores, the seasons of states and symbols and lights we cannot remember the purpose love, shining beyond our knowing. The season we believed a better world could be built if only we took the chance to begin. All right. I'm not going to explain this one. In which the rapture misses Bushwick. It is on this random Friday my mother texts me. Yes, texts me, though I did not know it was her at first because she is on her 6th Obama phone this year to ask me, yes, me, if the rapture is happening. And I have to pause to look outside my window because the question is so ridiculous, because I am in the middle of Bushwick where had the rapture happened and I hadn't known it, I still wouldn't know. Because what God-fearing person moves to Bushwick? Which my mother must have known, because she follows up her first question with, obviously you're okay, but I saw it on the news, which then prompts me to tell my mother, prone to conspiracy, that the rapture is in fact not happening, and you should really evaluate your sources, and that if the rapture were happening, I'd be on the first bus to glory, thank you very much. To which my mother, prone to skepticism, asked when the last time I prayed was, at which point I, knowing I had been stumped, ignored the question and instead opt to ask my mother about changing my name legally, at which she, prone to distraction, tells the long story of my birth, of who I did and didn't belong to, and who did or didn't or wasn't supposed to know. How I was so small I could fit in the palm of her palm. How the helicopter carried us to another hospital. How even in my puny state she called me DeeSoul after her favorite Autobot Optimus Prime. How, yes, of course the name is mine to change. My life is mine to live. Yes, while I am still unraptured and unclaimed by God. Go, be what she never could have dreamed, alive past the hour of my birth and onward to oblivion. All right, 2 more poems. And I should have said this poem that I just read and the next 2 I'm doing are from a later collection that I'm working on that's thinking about, I'm still thinking about absurdities, but I'm thinking a lot more about personal relationships in my relationship to the people that I love and the people I'm in proximity to. And so my friend Tariq Thompson has these, he's another terrific poet, and he has these birthday sonnets. So he shares a birthday with like 20 great, amazing people, and he writes these sonnets thinking about being in conversation with them. I happen to share a birthday with Huey P. Newton, who was the leader of the Black Panther Party, and so I wrote a poem thinking about him. And yeah, that's the poem. So, on our birthday, Huey P. Newton and I discuss liberation after Tariq Thompson. The means became justified the moment my mother met the bright end of a cop's torch. The means meant breakfast in the belly of the baby forgotten by bureaucracy's bloat. The means puts power back in the palm of the people. When accused of violence, who of us have forgotten the prisons and paper haunting our bloodlines? Who of us have forgotten Palestine, Sudan or Southeast San Diego, West Asia or East Oakland? Violence is the word reserved for the boot on the neck of anyone born into the imperial maw, the teeth tearing into the back of any cousin I have the honor to call my neighbor. When I say freedom, I mean every morning I wake to a nation prepared to step over my corpse. I mean every night I dreamed of a place our blood never spilled, and then I acted on it. Tell me, where is the violence in that? Tell me who's got to die so that we've never got to die again. All right, in this last one, I'm going to need one more piece of audience participation. When I point at you, I'm going to need you to say the word mercy. Does that feel like something we can do? Okay, let's try it.
Mercy.
We'll try it one more time. Mercy. Great. So if I point at you twice, I need you to say mercy twice. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mercy. Mercy.
Okay, and if I keep pointing at you, guess what I need you to do? Y'all are so smart. Perfect. So this is a poem. This poem is called Testimony. And it is for my mother. My mother passed away last year from stage 4 cancer. And my mother was a woman of great faith. I am a person of wavering faith, who is very inspired by her faith. And I think very often about how she kept her faith in God no matter what was happening to her. There is a great song called I'm Still Here by Dorinda Clark Cole. Dorinda Clark Cole was one of the famous gospel Clark sisters. And in this particular version of the song, she's live in Atlanta, she's singing, and she's kind of, gospel singers love to extend the song. But she's going around to all these people who have lived through these various diagnoses and have remained here despite their diagnosis, despite what the doctors told them. And I'm just was thinking about that song, thinking about my mother's faith and all those sort of things. So if you will just indulge me for this last poem, I will appreciate it. Testimony for my mother after Dorinda Clark Cole live in Atlanta. Fun fact, I spend every plane ride begging for mercy. I know the stats on turbulence suggest the danger is only in my mind, but I can't help it. Mercy. That cabin gets to shaking and I feel a little closer to mercy. God. Mercy. My mother, full of mercy. Mercy. Did not have this issue. Mercy. My mother would bake a pound cake and cut it into even slices, sealing them in a Ziploc. Mercy. On the plane, she offered a slice to every hungry flyer that looked over to see the mercy. Good on her food tray. Mercy. Her testimony was simple. Mercy. God had been so good, how could one not pay that love forward? Mercy. Even with her diagnosis, mercy. Lord, she could think only about how she's been kept alive and of sound mind. Mercy. Here despite her odds, Lord, mercy. What grace, what love, what mercy. Right, yeah. What grace, what love, what mercy. She was afforded, that she could afford it to others. Mercy, mercy, hallelujah, was never far from her lips. Mercy. When I think of her now, I can think only of mercy. What only she knew of grace and gratitude. Mercy. Mercy. The years of dialysis endured. Mercy. The innumerable bouts of gout. Mercy. The malignant blood in carnivorous cells. Mercy. Never a curse on her tongue. Mercy. What do I do with this example I've been left? Mercy. What do I do now with all this? Mercy. 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 All I have are my hands, Lord. Mercy. My breath and my small living. Mercy. Lord, I beg all I have now. Mercy. 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 Mercy, 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 mercy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DeeSoul. That last poem was amazing, right? I love audience interaction things, especially if I don't have to come up on stage and be part of the performance. Thank you again so much, DeeSoul. As well, we are not done because we have our second amazing poet. So Let me introduce her to you. Once again, glasses, sorry. Jeanann Verlee is the author of 3 books of poetry. The first one is the award-winning Racing Hummingbirds. The second is Said the Manic to the Muse. And the newest book is called Pray, with this most amazing cover. She has received a National Endowment for the Arts in Poetry Fellowship, as well as being the winner of the Third Coast Poetry Prize and the Sandy Crimmins National Prize, among others. Her work is featured in numerous journals, and she has performed nationwide, including PBS's Brief But Spectacular, Pen America, at Lincoln Center, and more. I love this about her bio. She collects tattoos, kisses Rottweilers, and believes in you. Before I do get into kind of my second part of my introduction, I do just want to say that Jeanann's work tackles some very serious subjects, some of which touch upon sexual assault, trauma, and abuse, and surviving this. So I just want to make sure that everybody who is in this space feels safe. And if you need to practice some self-care and, step out, what's most important is that you are doing okay. All right? So Jeanann Verlee's most recent book, not poetry, Pray, it is poetry, is a collection of poems that a reviewer for The Blind described as offering a bold and nuanced witnessing of what it means to be predator and what it is to be prey. The poems are about what it means to survive emotional, psychological, and sexual abuse. In work that Publishers Weekly described as, quote, as illuminating as it is unsettling, quote, the poems continue what her work has done across all 3 books, which is to give voice to those who need to hear their own experiences reflected without shame and without blame. Some experiences are best captured in poems of quiet meditation. Others require something more. From mental illness to assault to heartbreak, these are tough poems, fierce poems, necessary poems. And in the words of the reviewer from Muzzle Magazine, quote, these are poems that battle to attain wholeness while claiming the complex parts of who we are. So it is with pleasure that I welcome and thank Jeanann Verlee for coming out to read.
Hello. I'm going to do a little set rearranging. I was told I can do this. And that's really just because I have, on many occasions, knocked things over because I get into it. I may not get that into it, but just in case. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction, and thank you. That was incredible. You kind of undid me, and now I'm trying to find my grounding on why am I here? What am I doing? I've lost my own water here. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not worried about. Oh, thank you. I'm shutting up and I'm doing poems, which doesn't even make sense. I'm going to stop babbling and start doing poems. This first poem is titled Good Girl. Every morning, I sit at the kitchen table over a tall glass of water, swallowing pills. So my hands won't shake, so my heart won't race, so my face won't thaw, so my blood won't mold, so the voices won't scream, so I don't reach for knives, so I keep out of the oven, so I eat every morsel, so the wine goes bitter, so I remember the laundry, so I remember to call, so I remember the name of each pill, so I remember the name of each sickness, so I keep my hands inside my hands, so the city won't rattle, so I don't weep on the bus, so I don't wander the guardrail, so the flashbacks go quiet, so the insomnia sleeps, so I don't jump at car horns, so I don't jump at cat calls, so I don't jump a bridge, so I don't twitch, so I don't riot, so I don't slit a strange man's throat. I live with bipolar disorder, and as the introduction included, there are a lot of poems that I will talk about today. There are a lot of content that I have that is going to talk about mental illness, mental issues, and then also a lot of, when I move on into the next kind of section, we'll talk, I'm going to try to take us on a journey that goes really sharply into uncomfortable territory, and then I'll try to bring us back. That's my goal. We'll see how we do. This poem is written, it's a persona poem. It's written in the voice of my own mania speaking to me. This is titled The Mania Speaks. You clumsy bootlegger, little daffodil. I watered you with an ocean and you plucked one little vein, downed a couple of bottles of pills and got yourself carted off to the ER. I gifted you the will of gunpowder, a matchstick tongue, and all you managed was a shredded sweater and a police warning? You should be legend by now. Girl in an orange jumpsuit. A headline. I built you from the purest napalm, fed you wine and bourbon, preened you in the dark, hammered lullabies into your thin skull. I wrote the poems, I painted the walls, I shook your goddamn boots. Now you want out? Think you'll wrestle me out of you with prescriptions? A good man's good love and some breathing exercises? You think I can't tame that? I always come home. Always. Ravenous. Loaded. You know better than anybody. I'm bigger than God. Thank you. Let's see. Shifting gears slightly. I'm just going to dive in. I'm not going to. I've done enough. I've prepped enough. This opens with an epigraph from poet named Marty McConnell. She writes, I wanted to write you a curse song. This poem is titled, For the Woman Who Loved the Predator More Than His Prey. I would wish on you the knowing with your own good body, but I am incapable. You are made of flesh and nerve and thought, of heart and love and wonder and grief, as I am. Let me wish for you this, a deep sleep. Trust in the man at your back who is promised sanctuary, and you have sipped of the sanctuary, and he has drunk of you, and you are almost whole in the clumsy wonder of maybe he is the one. His mouth is filled with the world, and he is giving it all to you, and you believe. I will not wish for you the bruise, the leap in the throat, shriek, the shock and scramble in your own flowered sheets, his glazed eyes, the sudden property you have become. You, a scatter of dust beneath a heave of muscle, a storm of thrust, grunt, drool. You here cannot move. You are nothing more than your wit and your lungs, and neither seem enough. You are the torn cotton, the wrenched thigh. You are the scrub and the sob, all his countless hands. I do not wish you become the night terrors, the flashbacks, the grief and grief and grief, the holy, 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 holy wreck. Insomnia, delusion, the awe and burn. I do not wish you stay. Stay and forgive. I do not wish you forgiveness. Do not wish you cordial or polite. I do not wish you his manipulations or the mind's trickery. I will never wish you liar, as you have christened me. I do not wish you answer why or how or show me evidence. I do not wish you silence, shame, whiskey, box cutter, Xanax. I do not wish you erase. I do not wish you anything to erase. I do not wish you this. No, I will never wish you this. There is a series of poems in this book that are, I call it the Secret Series. And, as it was introduced, this collection is entirely an examination of predator and prey and how sometimes those can conflate. And this series called the Secret Series because the construct is a secret written inside a predator's mouth. So there's lots of different predators. There's vultures, there's lions, there's sharks, there's people. And I'm going to read some of those. Each one of them has a footnote or multiple footnotes, and I'll read the footnotes first and then the poem. 1. Piranhas are omnivorous freshwater fish with powerful jaws and serrated teeth known to delacerate prey. 2. Piranhas practice cannibalism in extreme conditions. Secret written from inside a piranha's mouth. He prefers winter, prefers Cabernet, steak, blondes, prefers ass, fake nails and glossy lips, juicy, stilettos, prefers silence and Comedy Central, IPAs, American football, prefers bareback, under 30, commando, prefers I know his preferences, prefers not to be bothered with mine, prefers I keep things quiet, keep things to myself, he sinks his teeth and shreds, prefers the spotlight be his alone, dims the room and all the people in it, prefers his teeth sharp, prefers a little blood in his soup. This next one is breaking the order here. That's all I'll say. Footnote 1. Excerpts from evidentiary documentation filed in Queens County Special Victims Bureau Police Report, case number 779, September 2012, quote, immolate, witches are for burning, I know where you live, shank, scalp, scalper, scalpel, better it being eaten, I will fucking bury you. 2. Finding by Bureau Chief Jay Flanders, DA for Queens County Special Victims Bureau, case number 779, October 2012, quote, there is simply not enough evidence of threat to substantiate a restraining order. This is secret written from inside the hunter's mouth. When it was over, but before he'd been chased out and rendered meaningless, back when he would still peek his face through windows or arrive unwelcome everywhere, the days when he was still compelled to send cruel letters and describe for me in detail the ways he intended to burn my body or strip it of its skin, before the police rejected the restraining order, before the last panic attack, before the last suicide attempt, but after the collapse on the street in broad daylight in a remote city, I replaced the rings on my fingers with lead and steel, thicker, sharper, infinitely heavier metals to reinforce each precious bone, and I practiced, swinging in the hot dark of my empty apartment, practiced on walls and doors and lovers, practiced what it would be to have his hands on me again, or again, or again, swing and left hook and uppercut and jab. I practiced as though vigilance might be a thing at which I could become expert, like prey, delusional enough to believe in some chance of escape. This last one that I'll share of that series is when prey becomes predator. The footnote reads, originally named by American explorers Lewis and Clark, the grizzly bear was formally classified in 1815 by naturalist George Ord as Ursus arctos horribilis, brown bear, horrible. Not for its grizzled fur, but for its grisly character. This is secret written from inside a grizzly's mouth. I adorn myself in wine because I am afraid of me. The eye of my own tornado, mouth shot and bucking, skin coated in gunpowder and teeth made of flint. Every few years, I start a bonfire, incinerate a mattress or a man or a city, then dust off the rubble and re-begin from the nothing I built with my very own hands. I'm switching gears. How's everyone doing? Cool. I do want to echo now that the really sticky ones are over. Thank you for your time and your patience and for hearing what I have to share. I know it can be very difficult, and I appreciate your patience and your presence with me on that. This is new. New shit. World premiere. I'm going to give a little context because the shit show doesn't stop. So I have to give a little context so you know where we're at with this piece. In March 2025, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia was abducted by ICE and transported without due process to the Terrorism Confinement Center in El Salvador. We may all remember that. Alongside hundreds of other unlawfully persecuted men, ICE has since escalated its terrorism of people of color across the U.S., including abduction, trafficking, incarceration, and abuse of children. This piece is titled Peril Ignored. Nowhere did they charge guilty of me. I am pacing the living room full-throated, and the men on screen are men. I will not compare a man to a soft-feathered bird, but have you read Eli Craner's Broiler? If we can agree that caging a flock without room to stretch their wings is inhumane, are we not obligated to pluck a senator's phone number from the annals of the internet? I don't know these men. I don't know these men, but spittle flies from my lower teeth as I pace and shout. Maybe the beaded black eyes of birds is nothing to no one. Maybe that's a double negative for a reason. Maybe subject and verb disagree for a reason. Where was I when Owen offered due process? Brooding, probably, about money, or the broken left front burner on the stove top, the worn-through soles of my Chuck Taylors. Nowhere did they chant USA as they bent the men in half. Imagine being one of those half-bent men. Nowhere did they say explicitly, "Run, little birds, run." I'm trying to make sense of why, when Kilmar Jr. looks in the mirror, he sees white tube socks scurrying a cement floor, a boy's hand, fingers weaving between bars, a whisper, "Fly, little flightless bird." When they plucked these men, did I, no one's mother, wretch? Nowhere is a person free when men cage other men. Nowhere is America. Nowhere. Maybe a gap between a boy's baby teeth. Maybe a legion of milkless mothers, a lit match, an unbolted cage. Thank you. Switching gears again. We'll say this is the love poem portion, ish, of today's presentation. This is more of a, there's politics involved, but this is more of a very, very ancient historical context of politics, of the body-mind politic. The marriage of Jezebel and King Ahab in the Book of Kings in the Bible their marriage was considered politically corrupt, and ultimately the entire family was executed. Jezebel was executed by being thrown into a pit of dogs and eaten alive. This is a persona poem in the voice of Jezebel titled Jezebel Revisits the Book of Kings. I wouldn't go out frayed and bleating, refused to racket or wail. I was a holy woman of Baal. I faced the end in silk and jewels, posture, purple. For this, my name means whore, means raggedy dance, means black jasmine, means sweat, stamen, ovary, means pearl. In the wet lap of oysters, my name means ruby-lipped. I lived in a time of men. I lived in the time of Ahab. I am a mother of kings, born of hurricane and pomegranate. Fed on the breast, I was maker of milk. I passed the stream, and the night flowers bent to kiss me. I was evoker of hail, windstorm. I prodded the gods, and they came, feasted at my table, crowned my husband. Mine is a story of love. Women who survive the hate of men are named harlot, witch, Jezebel. I still hear the dogs. In a different century, they'd have burned me. They'd have pressed my body to the river's floor. I was a burning fish. Silver flakes trailed in my wake. I was silk dance and flutter, maker of tides, of thorns. Girls cowered and men flocked. I led armies on the soft hull of my back. A powerful woman is simply one who has not yet died. Flanked on all sides by men made furious with envy, men gone mad. I did it for Ahab. He came to Baal for me. He came to Baal for me. I lost my place in the poem. Let's try that again. Flanked on all sides by men made furious with envy, men gone mad. I did it for Ahab. He came to Baal for me. There is nothing I would not do. He wanted the castle. I mortgaged my wrists. He asked for the crown. I slayed the soldiers. He sought a dynasty. I gave him the globe. Nothing less than a man would do. Remember, Helen? I was ear to the prophets, Ahab's wife, mother to Ahaziah and Jehoram, men raised on woman's sugar tit, Phoenicians with mouths of gold. I was a woman with hunger. Prophecy. Scholars name me corrupt. Name me concubine, hussy, charlatan, tainter of men. My name means wicked, unholy. Ahab was my only, his tongue, my tongue, his flesh, my flesh. I was a woman in love. They robbed me first of Ahab's breath, then my sons. I wasn't thrown into that pit of dogs. I dove. Let's totally switch gears. This is still on love, but it's messy. And maybe funny. Not funny, but, as funny as I can get. Broken heart survivors, anyone? Everyone, really? I mean, we're human, right? This is titled Grief, Not Guilt. I wish you a tongue scalded by tea, a hangover, burnt toast, stubbed toes, a lost job. I wish you weeping in the shower, salt in the sugar bowl, a wish list of sorrows, grief, not guilt. A hole in your favorite coat, stain on the good suit, arthritis for your joints, a broken guitar string at every show. I wish each breath a little harder, each workday an hour longer. I wish your heart 1,000 breaks, all your sports teams bottom rank. I wish your friends go quiet, the leaves brown above your head, a thunderstorm every morning, nothing but pearls when you shop for her diamond. I wish you bad knees, a sore back, empty sheets, a ghost to haunt your house, a tub brimming with mud, closet stuffed with 2 small shoes, flat beer, sour milk, weak coffee. I wish you flat tires, soggy pasta, a tax audit to fail. Bent forks, dull knives, a hangnail for every finger. I wish you a chamber filled with empty bassinets, a room wallpapered with my photograph. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to read one last poem. True story, and it's dedicated to Mr. John Deal, who is my partner, and he's sitting right there. And he hates it when I do that. This opens with an epigraph by singer-songwriter Jeanette Napolitano, who writes, "I've waited so long for you to be here. Can I have a souvenir so I remember I was here?" This is Lifespan of a Peanut. We kept each other's poems, most scrawled on coffee-stained napkins, hidden from the sight of other lovers for 26 years. We kept photographs and song lyrics and bits of broken jewelry and other trinkets locked away, literally in trunks or safes, a sacred, precious secret. He, for example, kept a peanut. Let me go back. I was 18, I loved him, and I wrote him a note, and in that note, I explained I was sad to have missed him when I stopped by his apartment unannounced on that particular sun gold sky shimmer summer afternoon, and I hoped he might call me later, but since I was there and he was not, and since I had a bag of peanuts and he did not, I thought maybe to share the last half of the last peanut that perhaps he might like to have it. So I wrote, P.S., here's half of a peanut. And I do not remember writing this note, nor tucking into its folds one half of one peanut, but he does. He remembers. He showed me the note, all these years later, grayed in the corner where the peanut bled its oils, staining the paper. And he showed me the peanut itself, dark and hardened with time. He showed these to me, and they are as real as my chipped nail polish or the way dawn relentlessly breaks open the horizon each day. And yes, perhaps the act of giving my lover a peanut was trivial or lunacy, but he kept that goddamn peanut for 26 years so he would remember I was there. And perhaps his choice to keep half of a peanut folded in paper, hidden in secrecy for more than a quarter century is also lunacy. But when he came back to me, lifetimes later to Brooklyn, 1,700 miles from where we met, it will not shock you to learn that I wrapped in a satin pouch one half of one peanut and laid that pouch on what would be his pillow to welcome him home. Finally home. That tiny half of that tiny peanut trying its clumsy best to say, I have waited so long for you to be here.
I have to leave.
They're going to share a mic, but does anyone have any questions for our wonderful poets, Jeanann or DeeSoul? I know we already talked quite a bit at dinner, but any questions for them?
Mike, question, Mike.
I do. Oh, sorry.
That's it.
Sorry, we're on TV. Mike.
Turn it on.
Here. Is it on?
Yeah, I've asked quite a bit of people from the Visiting Writers series the same question, but I just like hearing the different unique answers. How do you come up with your titles, or where do you actually get them from? I know at dinner you said like you love doing titles. You either start with them before you write, or you come up with them, or even you. I'm just really curious, like how important, or just how like are you able to find it and you know for a fact it's the right one?
Thank you. That's a great question. My relationship with titles is long and sordid. In my first collection, I, for whatever reason, was just absolutely committed to one-word titles, lowercase. I don't know what I was doing. That was my thing. And then towards the, when the book had been accepted and I was changing my writing style and it got scattered, and so then there's some poems that are actually capitalized, and so as a reader, I'm sure it's like, what is this lady doing? This is a hot mess. This contents page doesn't make any sense. But over time, I got into a phase where I fell head over heels in love with overworded titles, like a title that's a full ass sentence. Like what is that? Is it Fiona Apple? Is it Fiona Apple? Who has that whole, okay. And that was not my inspiration. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know who that was at the time. But yeah, I got into extremely long titles and very short poems. I don't know. So I don't know if I'm answering you, but I will say that my journey is this ongoing and really exciting love affair with titles that I will say I want them to do work, whether it's one word or the super long. I want the title to be as much in relationship with the poem as it possibly can be, without giving too much away. And yeah, I'm just deeply, deeply in love with this process of figuring out. Sometimes it is part of the poem. Like Grief Not Guilt, that one of the later poems I read tonight, that is in the poem. But then there's other titles that have seemingly nothing at all to do until you get to the last line, and then there's the aha moment. And I'm often seeking that. I want to give readers the joy of the puzzle of poetry and having that kind of intimate connection, like, oh, that's where her title came from. That's very exciting for me. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think for myself, thinking about poetry advice that I gotten before is thinking about titles as a package of information. So I was talking here before about like paratext, and really what the things around a poem can tell you about the poem. A lot of poem titles sometimes come from references. So, for example, What's Going On? I was thinking about Marvin Gaye's song "What's Going On," thinking about that whole album really. But that was an album that was also thinking about like various social political things that were happening in the world. Like he wrote that poem after like the Vietnam War, thinking about the Vietnam War. A lot of the video game poems, those are references to the games themselves. So they're also a little bit easier. So Requiem for the Time Witch was just literally, it's like a poem for, it's thinking about a song, right? Fly Me to the Moon. And it's also for Bayonetta, who is a time witch. That one was a little easy. Ruin in Your Mind is a recurring slogan inside the game, A Letter to the Future. Build Null, Then We'll Talk actually is in the hexadecimal version of the poem is called Build God, Then We'll Talk, which is a Panic at the Disco song. and so I took the title. I just thought it was a good title for that poem. There's another poem I wrote about The Last of Us, which is titled after a meme. It's called You Cannot Kill Me in a Way That Matters. Because it's thinking about this random meme about a mushroom, and there's a whole thing around it. But anyway, so I'm thinking a lot about references, or I'm thinking about how the poem just offers something. So right, if I'm thinking about testimony, I'm thinking about my mother and her own testimony, what she's offering to the world. The Laughing Barrel is named after kind of this artifact of the antebellum South, right? So that image as a packet of information for this suite of sonnets, that sort of thing. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, no,
Okay.
you're great. Other questions? Yeah. I'll come to you.
How's it going? I just want to say, first off, I thought you guys were phenomenal. I thought you guys did a very good job. So I have like a two-part question. How did you get into poetry, and what's like your inspiration for what you talk about?
Sure. I got into poetry really young. I mean, I'll give a Cliff Notes version. I talked a little bit earlier. Sub-teacher, mad at us, assigned poetry. I thought it was great. Started doing spoken word because I really loved performing, and just really loved a way to kind of challenge myself with language, thinking about what language could do, how I could give voice to the various things I saw happening in the world that were making me mad or felt needed more attention, in all the ways that we hope that writing will do. I think when I think about how I choose to write about, I think I don't know if I can necessarily choose what to write about. I think I feel moved by something, and I felt moved to put language to that thing. I think poetry is a kind of thing where you can never language fails us all the time. It's hard to like really capture what we really mean by things. But I think whenever I write a poem, I'm trying to say something about something that really matters to me. And so like all the poems in The Laughing Barrel are thinking about various absurdities, because I just keep coming back to this idea of like everything that's happening is so crazy, and also it's really unnecessary that we have to deal with so many of the things that we deal with. I really love video games, and I liked the idea of forms, so I started writing about video games. So really just the idea of like both what like moves you, what upsets you, and then like your darlings, like write about those things. Yeah.
I got into I've been writing poetry since I was very, very young. I like the first poem I remember writing when I was 7. And I don't know exactly why. I can say, I can speculate that it was escapism. I can speculate that it was trying to rewrite a narrative or find my narrative as a child and like escape some rather unfortunate things that were going on in my life. That's how I got into poetry, how I got into what I call bringing poetry off the page and bringing it into the 3D world. I'm a theater kid, and I fell in love with the idea of performing, and then at some point saw other people reading poems in a more dynamic way instead of more muted, and watching that dynamism I really wanted. I was like, oh, I like that. That seems like my lane. I can do that. So I started that way. And then for me, very similarly, I often answer this question that if I am emotionally impacted by something, I can't not write about it. Like it's just and I think a lot of that is from my, being someone who lives with bipolar disorder. I'm such an emotional creature. If it's in my brain, I have got to put language or attempt to put language to it. So that's what you'll find a lot of thematic topics in my work. So.
Thank you all really for being here. I know we were competing with an absolutely first gorgeous night of spring, and we're in the middle of the semester. So thank you all. Get home safe. Take some cookies. All right. Bye-bye.